Hello and welcome to the Chapters Creative Conspiracy. I'm your host, Matthew Donez, and today's episode is with Tatiana Stone Wagner. Basically, what I did is I did an open call out on LinkedIn and say, hey, who can I help? And she raised her hand. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about her journey. Also, we're going to help her out with her business, but we're going to talk about her going solo in the nonprofit sector and her expertise in trauma-informed care, HR systems, and grant management, and how she positions her services to reduce workplace harm. But ultimately, I help her because she's still kind of confused about how to position herself. So I help her out with that later on, and you're going to find some insights on branding, positioning in your niche, and building your offerings using narrative. So all that to say, I'm pretty excited. It was a great conversation, getting to know her a little bit more and also helping her out, and maybe you'll get to learn something too. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk to Tatiana. So, Tatiana, thanks for showing up today. Thanks for helping me. I say helping because I put out not a DM. I put out a post on LinkedIn saying I need to put my Riverside to good use, and you DM'd me saying, "Hey, let's talk. Let's figure this out." So, thank you for showing up. Thanks for raising your hand.
Thanks for having me. I love helping anyone with a Riverside account.
Yeah, there you go. If someone's listening to this and have a Riverside account, just hit up Tatiana here and she'll help you out.
Exactly.
So basically, like what I said in that post is that, like, hey, like, essentially I'm saying, like, I want to talk to people and help them out. You know, I'm doing it for free. Like, you know, I love doing this, and there are lots of people like ourselves because you've been on your own for a while. Right?
Yeah, for like 7 years, I want to say.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So what's the origin story of you going out on your own 7 years ago?
So really the impetus was the move. I moved from California to Washington. Please don't tell my Washington people up here. They do not like Californians. But I moved from the Bay Area up here, and I didn't really have any connections. And I thought about looking for a job like the stuff I had been doing, which was working in administration in nonprofits and very heavily in the grants world. Like I was a grants and finance manager at the most recent like in-house position I held in the Bay Area. Um, and I realized that I just wanted to be able to help more than one organization. Like helping one was great, but I felt like I could have more impact helping more of them, and that I could then do the different parts of my skill set could appeal. So I decided it was right before COVID, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I tried, and actually COVID helped me, unlike a lot of other positions and people and workers and businesses. It helped because people all of a sudden were like, oh yeah, we can do remote. It's okay that you're in Washington and we're in California. Yeah, we'll do Zoom. And I was like, great. So it kind of started like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's funny how that whole world, like, of course, like, there's a lot of like Monday morning quarterbacking and how like COVID changed everything and things like that. Because I'd never tried remote work until that happened, until I got sent home.
Same.
And I did not know how to adjust because I had 3 kids at home, and so it was hard to like adjust to it. But I've been on my own for 4 years now, which is like, I mean, I do have a client where I go in once a week, like that's local, but even that's ending. So but yeah, it was just like that adjustment. And so, like, did you feel like kind of like a whole new world like opened up to you, like as far as like having the world be your oyster a little bit more?
Yeah, yes and no. So part of it, the thing is in the nonprofit world, everyone loves a grant writer. Like you can always have work if you are a grant writer. The thing is, I hate writing grants. I can do it, but I really hate it. I would really rather people hire other people to write grants and me to manage them and help make sure the workflow gets done and do the project management around it, or the positioning ahead of time to decide how the grant should be written and what kind of things and all of that stuff around it. I love actually writing the grant. hate it. And so it did pigeonhole me a little because in the beginning, I kind of just had to do what people paid me for because I
Right.
didn't really have network set up. I didn't like, do a business opening and send out and spend a bunch on marketing. I just kind of got calls from people who knew my work, who knew that I was capable, and they were like, "Hey, can you help us write these grants?" And I was like, "Sure." So I did that in the beginning, which was a little bit more pigeonholing, and then I've slowly like tried to lose the work that is the work I hate, because that's what I
Hmm.
really wanted. I was like, "Okay, going to work for myself, I wanna do the things that I love and not the things that I hate." Like, it's as simple as that. And I wanted the freedom to be able to say, "No, I don't wanna do that," or hire someone else to do that, or "I'll help you find someone else to do that," but it's not
Hmm.
me. And when I worked in a house, you couldn't really do that. It was like, that was your job. So
Yep.
I that part was really freeing, but in the beginning, it was kind of like a bind because you kind of had to go with what worked.
Yeah. So that doesn't necessarily happen to you anymore as far as doing the stuff you hate. Like, do you feel like you've done a good job of like holding the line?
I do. Also, it helps that I know some talented grant writers. So I'm able to, when somebody says, "Hey, can you do that?" I can be like, "Oh, did you know that these people write grants? Like, they're really great at it. And
Yeah.
I can help you with all this other stuff. Like, do you have a grant management workbook? Do you have a schedule and a calendar?" And then usually they're like, "No, I don't have those things." So I was like, "Great. Well, I'll help you do that. These other people will help you write it." Um, and also, one of the things that made me leave a traditional work environment, like being an employee in-house, was there was, at the last place I worked for, there was this big HR upset that kind of upset a lot of things across the organization. It was like kind of this big scandal. There was all this stuff. It
Hmm.
was very traumatizing for a lot of people. And I saw how much harm the investigation of the thing brought to people, and I really was motivated and vowed to, like, never let that happen on my watch again if I could help it. So, 1, I don't wanna be in a house because then, like, they can just make you go along with that. But 2, I really had a passion for human resources, so I actually went back and studied and got my SHRM CP, which is my Society for Human Resource Management certified professional, and it has really opened up doors to help nonprofits in a way that I'm really passionate about, which is around trauma-informed care and, like, reducing harm in the workplace. So I've been good at holding that line because now I have this other lane, this, like, risk management, compliance, HR lane that people do still need.
Yeah, I feel like you not so much avoiding, but you kind of solve the problem that a lot of people have, like when they go out on their own, is because it's always the idea, like you said, like, hey, I'm gonna go on my own and I'm gonna do what I want to do, and sometimes depending on how money is going, you decide start doing the things you hate or don't want to do or
Yes.
rather not
Yes.
do, like, and I mean I've been there, you know.
Yep. Yep. Me too.
Been
Me
there,
too.
been there kind of doing that. So like I think being on your own is like kind of like a constant like reappraisal of
It is.
like value, especially if someone comes to you and they say like, hey, here's this thing that, but it sounds like to me like in your world, like it's not a make or break if you're not going to do, like you could still get work maybe from the same client if you're not going to do the grant writing. There's still game to be like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, we'll just have you do this so you're not losing work in that way. That's good.
Definitely, and I think what I'm looking to do in the future is I want to partner with grant writers so that we can provide services jointly, like either me as a subcontractor or them as a subcontractor, so that
Yeah.
I do things that they don't do. Like a common thing is allocation schedules, like figuring out how you actually take the expenses and get them billable to the grant is
Hmm.
really a specialized finance sort of thing, and most grant writers hate it. Like, I literally haven't met
Yeah.
another grant writer that loves it or is very experienced in it. I'm sure they exist. Like, I'm not trying to throw shade on those people out there that might hear this, but, like, I haven't met them. And so it's a great, like, match of skill sets. So what I'm hoping to do more of in the future is really collaborate with people where a client comes in and says to one of us, like, "I need you to do X," and it's this, like, big umbrella, and then I come in and do the part that I'm good at, and they come in and do the part that they're good at.
Okay, so now I'm curious about that because, like, in my marketing world, like, we have agencies, and so you pair a writer with a designer, and that's kind of typically the thing. Is what you're describing normal? Like, does that happen in
You
your
know,
world?
I have never seen it happen. That doesn't mean it doesn't, because I'm by no means omnipotent. But I have never experienced that because normally, well, so in nonprofits, it's a very like you're good at whatever hat you're wearing. Like they
Yeah,
just kind of put jobs on you and you have to learn how to do it and you just kind of have to like limp along and figure it out because budgets are tight and people don't really know. Now that nonprofits and now that there's this whole rise of like fractional work and
yeah,
consultants, many nonprofit professionals are actually leaving to become consultants. And that's a double-edged sword. There's good and bad for the sector there is a whole
sure.
other conversation. But on the plus side, nonprofits are realizing instead of hiring like a full-time person to do all these weird, disparate things that they're maybe not very good at, they could have a half-time person to do something that like is necessary in-house and they're good at, and then they could hire these fractional people or consultants to do this other stuff. So I think the reason we don't see it is because it's new and
Yeah.
nonprofits are still trying to navigate how to make that work. And a lot of people, sometimes they have in-house financial staff that know these allocations and stuff like that really well, and sometimes they
Hmm.
don't. So it just kind of depends on the org.
Yeah, because if I'm going through your LinkedIn profile, like you have here, like you're a nonprofit organizational consultant, and like I think what a lot of people might like misunderstand, like that consultants aren't really doers, like other than like talking like things through. So like, but you're doing things, I'm doing
Yeah.
things sometimes, and so I think that's that could be um I don't know, because like now that you're talking about like if maybe an angle, because one thing you wrote me about was like trying to figure out like what you want to be known for and what you like want your offer
Yeah.
to be, and the fact that you've got this, you're speaking at Sherm, like that's how heard it. I'm probably saying it wrong, but or
No, that's
don't
right.
I
Yeah.
got it? I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, it's a so and that's like that's an HR conference essentially, right?
It is. It
For,
is the
yeah,
biggest HR conference in the United States. Yeah.
yeah. So it's hard like to be like the first one doing things at least that you know of.
Yes. Yes.
Because in one at one point, like on one hand, if you're the only one like screaming it out loud, like this is what I do, like I essentially like run like not like I don't know. I'm gonna probably you can translate it in your way, but like
Yeah.
I'm basically like building it like a fractional team, like myself and grant writers. I'm sure you know a whole bunch of other professionals in that
Hmm.
nonprofit world that you could like
Definitely.
make that happen. But like if you're the only person doing that, it's a lot easier to make space for yourself. But then you have to go through the work of explaining what that actually means to a world that might like be like, what? You know, or maybe not. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think it definitely is. I mean, I think of it as kind of like when you cut your own path through the brush, you're the only one on there, so you don't have
Yeah.
competition, but you're also like having to cut your path through the brush with the machete. And I guess they also call that in business like a blue ocean strategy, right? Where you do something different. And so there's not all this competition, but then it is hard because you are trying to explain to people what you do and what you do. Like for me, so much of what I do nonprofits historically have really not hired people for except like maybe lawyers. Maybe
Mm,
they've hired like a lawyer to like represent them on labor law issues. And that's not what I do, but that's like maybe the only reason that they thought of a consultant for HR for a lot of places. Um, and so having to kind of explain it. And the other hard thing is that I have like these lanes that I have developed like deep skill sets in, but they're kind of a little disparate and it's kind of strange to people. They're like, oh, there's finance, but also there's HR and also there's like compliance. And sometimes all those things go together and sometimes they don't. And then there's also this whole thing that runs concurrent to it, which is my systems work. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite things is to come into a position where it's a hot mess
Mm-hmm.
and someone's been doing it for a long time, nobody's documented anything. And I come in and I bring organization to the chaos and I set up systems and then I'm done. And they hire someone else to come in and maintain those systems and run that thing. But like that is a skill set in and of its own that touches on all of the things. And it's kind of hard to describe to people other than like saying what I just said to you, like saying the whole thing.
Yeah. So do you feel like if you made your main umbrella HR, that you'd be able to have those as capabilities? So like say you've got okay, so HR is like the main thing, and then you got your compliance as like a sub thing, and then HR like I don't maybe not HR because you were saying compliance. There's a couple other things like a couple like legal things,
Finance and
finance,
HR. Yeah.
and so HR like you can probably like generalist. I guess could you do that like as far
I
as
could. Yeah. I think so. One of the problems is I have to back up a little bit. The labor law hasn't really caught up with what the market is currently doing right now. Right. So
uh
we have all these fractional people, we have these consultants. Historically, consultants have been talkers and not doers, like you were saying.
yeah
And the IRS and the Department of Labor have viewed that as that's what a consultant does. And a lot of states, in an effort to like hold the Ubers of the world accountable, have been really aggressive. Like California got super aggressive with what is a consultant and what is an employee. And if you
mm,
miscategorize, you can have thousands of dollars of fines. And the problem is they weren't thinking of people like you and people like me when they figure out what a consultant is. They were thinking of like an accountant or a plumber. And they weren't even thinking of
yeah
musicians. And there was this huge pushback in California, and they had to make a law, and then they had to make a whole nother law, and then they had to make further amendments. And it was a disaster, AB5. And
mm,
I think that one of the things that is difficult is that some agencies, and actually I lecture on this, so it's hard, is that like you don't want to misclassify your employees. So you want to make really sure that the relationship is consultant in nature, and you have to do these weird sort of things. So the reason I say all that is because HR generalist is an inherent part of an organization. Having that as a consultant, I don't know how I would justify that to the IRS, the Department of Labor.
yeah
An HR advisor, totally. I think that my umbrella, I really how I view it is that my umbrella is systems, but that's really abstract for people. And that if you had to put
yeah
something that was more concrete, I think it would be risk. And then under risk would be finances. Like, are you doing the finances right? Are your grants going to come and get you in trouble? Are you doing your HR right? Is there risk there? Are you blah, 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 blah?
yeah. What if it's just like combined it like HR systems and then
It could be. It's HR systems, but there's this like part of it that is so like I mean, yes, HR is inherently like about reducing risk for the organization, but it's about it from a people perspective. And so much of what I also do is about like helping reduce risk around like let's say grants and compliance. Like if you get a federal grant and making sure that pardon me, that you're checking everyone who's working on the grant for an OIG censure, like just all these little like weird things that don't really fall under that. It's hard.
yeah like because it sounds like to me just for the sake of because something I always challenge people is okay write out like a sentence of what you do only using 18 words now do 12 now do 8 just
Yeah,
because like I'm thinking like I'm just kind of imagining like what your potential website could say as far as like putting
right.
all this together
Yeah.
and how do you do it like with saying the least amount of words as possible but if there are 3 words that need to show up like on like above the fold of like a website like for you
Yes.
I think it has to be HR
Yes.
and then systems but then maybe like in a tagline talking about like removing risk across your
Yes.
org or whatever and having it just and you can get into the dirt when you
Yeah.
talk to them like you can get into a
Yes.
little bit like in the website but I think like the real dirt and like the real possibility of like hey, even bringing up like the whole like grant writing thing, like you
Yes.
can make a mention of it, but it won't be like your main thing.
Yeah.
I think people get hung up on trying to tell the whole story, but like the whole
Yes.
story should show up in the conversation you're
Later.
having
Yeah.
versus having like 5 paragraphs to like say
This is what I
one thing.
do. An
Yeah.
essay.
Yeah. Like I saw someone's website the other day, like someone I just connected with, and uh, I was definitely lurking, and we got to talk. Like, see, he was like doing kind of the same kind of things that I do as far as like storytelling or whatever, but he came from
Hmm.
like a more woo woo background.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, and I can hang with woo. Like I've had like
Yeah.
woo woo people as like, I'm slightly woo, but I've had them as like clients before, and it's been like super successful. But I think what gets in some people's way is that they assume that everyone reading like their website is going to know exactly what they're talking about. So it's like, well, how do
Yes.
you simplify that? Like, how can you simplify it but still hook them so you can have that conversation to be like, no,
Yes.
here's the whole breadth of like what I could do and what's relevant to what you're needing or whatever else. Cause I still think that idea is interesting to kind of be like, I can be the person to set all your systems straight, even if that means bringing in extra help.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because like my view of HR is very limited to like corporate. um,
Yeah.
not I know nonprofit is it's a whole other bag, and
Yeah.
um, especially with a lot of funding going away too.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
do you feel like offering yourself in that way when there's limited funding can make it an easier sell for you from what you've seen?
I think that if I had to put three words above the fold, if HR was one word, it would be like HR, risk, or compliance. I don't know which of those words, one or the
Yeah.
other. And then grants. And the reason is
Okay.
because grants gets people's attention. And even if I don't like writing grants, there's so much more that needs to be done with grants, and grants touch every part of the organization, that I think it would perk people's ears up. And
Hmm.
also, one thing I specialize in is making sure that whatever work I'm doing, figuring out how they can bill it to a grant, what they can or can't. So like
Hmm.
that was what I did a lot at previous organizations, is like making sure like, okay, well, if you do the work in this way, then this can be billed to this grant under this section, and this can be billed under that section, and stuff like that. And so I feel like when I say grants, people don't like, it's hard for nonprofits to usually think of HR consulting. Like, it's rare that they go out looking for that,
Right.
because, nobody wants to fund administration, which is effing crazy. Like, it's absolutely nuts. It's like
Yeah.
for nonprofits, they were like, I think I've heard the metaphor that it was like if you wanted the fire department to put out fires, but you told them, well, we only want to pay for the water to put out the fires. We don't want to pay for the hose, and we don't want to pay for your uniforms, and we certainly don't want to pay for your staff time, because that's not putting out the fire. It's the water that puts out the fire. And it's like, that sounds crazy because it is. And
Hmm.
so, anyways, that's separate rant of mine. But I think that having the grants part there would get the idea in the door.
Yeah, because you have to know where like money is going, and if you can't account for it, then I remember it was like with one person I was trying to work with, like she had her own nonprofit, and I had offered something super cheap to her,
Yeah.
and it was still like, oh, it's $99, but I still have to go to the board. It's just like,
Okay. Yeah.
hold up, I interrupt my own conversation to tell you that if you're enjoying this, if you're learning something, and if you're like, hey, that Matt guy can help me, well, I invite you to contact me and let's talk about the brand narrative workshop. So, with 3 hours, I sit down with you using a modern version of the hero's journey. I sit down with you and clarify your brand messaging, your positioning, and also take a look underneath the hood and seeing if how you're getting customers and how you're getting deals, if that's working out for you. So if that is you, if you need help with your own business and you're questioning, am I saying the right things? This is for you, the brand narrative workshop. So go to chapterscreative.com, reach out, and I can help you. Now back to the show.
So they definitely need their financial policies and procedures rewritten because that is crazy. Whenever I see this a lot with orgs is that there's nothing clear about what the executive director can okay and what they can't. And
Yeah.
such a low dollar amount is like, that's crazy. Yeah. But that happens a lot when people start and it's like a founder run nonprofit. They don't think to have a lot of those rules written out. I'm not saying I know what happened in that case, but I'm saying what I've seen. A lot of times it's kind of like how startups, when they're founder led, there's like founder syndrome. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's like, it's recognized in the private sector that you have a certain type of leader during the startup phase, a certain type during scale up, and then a certain type during whatever that next phase is called. Nonprofits have a similar thing where there's like a startup phase and then a scaling up and then a something. And recognizing that we also need different leaders at those three stages is something that we're kind of coming to the realization to, I think, slowly as a sector.
Yeah, because it sounds like to me like with the grant issue, like you can please correct me if I'm wrong, because once I brought up the idea of like how funding is just being slashed all over the place, like that's the thing that people are most interested in is okay, we need money. Like anything that we
Mm-hmm.
can do to bring money into the door
Yes.
is what we should be doing. So like it sounds like to me like because I forgot the one word that you already like the one word that we had. I think it was compliance or something. No, it wasn't
Compliance. Yeah.
compliance. Yeah, but like your three words being like HR, grants, risk.
Compliance. Yeah.
Yeah, or like
Exactly. Risk.
risk
Yeah.
compliance or whatever else, you know. And I think you
Yes.
would probably have to use like the more jargony word to it's probably compliance at that point.
Yeah. I think
uh,
because like most nonprofits don't think in terms of risk because they think of that as a for-profit thing. But they do know the word compliance deeply because they're held to it all the time in everything they do.
yeah, so like if those are your dog whistles
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
at that point because like of course like going through your LinkedIn, you know, as far as like because like your main headline is like on a mission to reduce harm in the workplace, but
Yeah.
like I don't know if you still want that to be like your calling card or things like that, or you can make the narrative about what you do to like fit that. I don't know, like that's because like sometimes there can be too much of a I don't know a wrangling of words to make it to shoehorn it. That's what the word I was looking
Trying to fit
for.
too much in one bucket.
Right, to make
Mm-hmm,
it make
mm-hmm.
sense. So like
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's
I don't
tough.
know what happens with that, you know, because like from a business point of view, what we just talked about was like, yeah, no duh, like talking about, you know, compliance and grants and kind of being like this, you know, consultant who can put people in places like and build up systems again. I think it was systems was one of the other words that we were talking about
Big.
actually.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
big.
So like and like I don't know what happens to the reducing harm aspect because all of a sudden there's a lot going on once you do that.
I
So
know.
maybe from a business point of view, especially like if you're having this talk, I don't know what your talk is going to be about.
Yeah.
Um but it could be something you still talk about like a tertiary topic. Just maybe not the main thing cuz like it's like the first thing you have like
It is. And
in your
I designed
headline.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put it that way because I saw other people's things and I saw what I saw of their headline when all I saw was just their picture and a little thing and then like
8
in a
words.
post that they made.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I did that was because I am very passionate about and have learned a lot over the years and trained doing trauma informed care.
Mhm.
And I believe that that's an important systemic thing that organizations need to build into their systems is trauma informed care.
Mm.
And that can actually reduce risk and it helps HR and it even helps finance and it helps all these different things. So I do trauma informed care trainings and I really love it. Um, if that was the only thing I did, I would probably be happy, but I don't think that I could support my business at that being the only thing I did. But I wanted some sort of like line that put that I was on a mission for something. Like I wanted it
Right.
to feel driven, and I wanted it to feel like an action and a thing. And I feel like the other things that I do, like HR is not inspiring. Like let's just be real. Like it is, no one is inspired by the word HR. No one is inspired by human resources. In fact, some people are afraid of it. Some people have experienced a lot of harm at the hands of human resources. So, in and
Totally.
of itself, the word is not even trauma informed, honestly, because it's got so much baggage. So that's why I don't have HR in the thing, because even though it is a true statement, there's a lot of misinformation and baggage along with it. Um, and so the reducing harm in the workplace was all about making better systems for organizations that reduce burnout and that reduce harm and also reduce risk. Making sure there's documentation, like all these things, making sure the budget is good. Like every single thing that I do to me relates to reducing that harm for employees, because what I find is that nonprofits, when the systems are bad, the people absorb the bad effects.
Hmm.
So nonprofit people are leaving the sector in droves, are having horrible work-life balances, have like extreme mental health challenges because of it, just all this terrible stuff. To me, all the things I do help alleviate that.
Yeah. So as you were talking, I think I've made a tweak to your
Okay,
headline.
cool.
I made it longer, so it's longer
Yeah.
for now. But it's like we're doing
Okay.
this live as
Yeah,
Bill. What's
exactly.
his name? I forget his name. He's we'll do it live.
Yeah.
Um. So like what I wrote out is reducing harm in the workplace through HR systems for nonprofits. It might be a
Okay. I
jumbling
like
of
that.
words. I'm just like you can totally like do whatever you want for that because like I think
Yeah,
if
I
it's
like
just
that.
like through systems like okay what kind of systems or
Yeah,
like
it's too
okay
big.
if you throw HR systems you could be talking about corporate but if your jam is nonprofits you got to have that in there somewhere because you've got the
Yes.
systems you
Yeah.
got the systems aspect in there you got the HR aspect in there um and of course like compliance isn't there you know but like you can
Yeah.
do that work in further things
Yes.
you could because
Yes.
I think what you're that sentence right there is like the core like
Yes.
truly the core like
Yes.
especially
Truly the
since like
core.
the trauma informed aspect is like a
Yes.
big deal
That's a
to
big
you
deal for me.
yeah
Yeah.
so like you'll like because you don't want to get you're not going to want to get rid of that because like that's unique to you
It is. It is. It's very, there's people that do trauma informed care, and there's people that do each of the things that I do, but I have not met somebody that puts them together the way that I do. So I feel like that is my
yeah
unique thing, is the linking trauma informed care and organizational system design. Most people link trauma informed care to direct service providers, like training the staff that deal directly with clients, which is important. But I think it can be used much further than that. And actually, my SHRM talk is going to be on using elements of trauma informed care and motivational interviewing to help
hmm
staff through changes in the organization. So it's about supporting staff with those tools, not supporting clients. Like it's
right
beyond that. And that is unique.
yeah and some folks say like the more like unique and more specialized what you do is like the more you can charge and the more you can like because I've thought doing that myself like I made an ad and because I live in Utah
Hmm.
and there are some marketing there are a lot of like marketing agencies here that are like focused on like ads like meta ads that's like kind of like the thing but then there are some branding agencies, but I have not heard a single person talking about like narrative first branding agencies where it's like, we care
Yeah.
about this first and foremost. And I
Yes.
got in my head of like, no one's saying that, at least here, you know? So I'm like, might as well just start like owning it and people will know
Yes.
what that is. So for you, if you're just like, yeah, I'm trauma informed or whatever, how you want to like bill
Yeah.
yourself.
Yes.
Um, and just keep of course like you have to make that trail you have to trailblaze a little bit like we were talking about before but I think there's that can be a lot more fun, you know?
It can be because like for people, I'm going to assume that that's you too. Cause I was going to say for people like us, where when you do go out on your own, there's that element of trailblazing when you do something unique. And to me, those require the traits of people who are builders. Like there are
Mhm.
builders and maintainers, and some people are so amazing at maintaining systems and they can keep it like a well-oiled precision machine. And that's not me. And those same
Mhm.
people are usually struggle to build a system from scratch. And whereas I love that. So there's definitely an element of, though it is harder sometimes, it is fun. And so it's interesting you say that about the, reducing harm in the workplace through HR systems or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like it because it preserves the first sentence. So what people see underneath my little headline, Tatiana Samstrom CP, then they still see reducing harm in the workplace because I feel like for nonprofits, it's very important that I position myself as values driven. Not
Mhm.
because as a marketing thing, I really am values driven, but I need to show that, right?
Yeah.
Nonprofits, they do not respect typically someone who comes to the work who is not values driven. So
Yeah.
it's very important that I establish that right off the bat that I have a mission too. It's not just you as a nonprofit. I also am trying to live my values and bring a better world into existence. And I want to help you do that, is what I need to communicate in that first thing. And reducing harm in the workplace, I feel like fits the bill for that. The reason why
Yeah.
I don't have trauma informed care in that first part is because it's long
It
and
is
it's
long.
jargon and some people don't know what it means. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a tertiary thing. Like in your about page or about section, something you can talk about a little bit deeper. Maybe there's a sentence in one other part of the website where you can throw that in just like a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, or it could be like a section like, what does reducing harm mean?
Yes, yes. I would love that. I
So,
would love to have like a diagram, right? Of what that means because I love diagrams. And people like when I make diagrams, they usually like it. So I'm like,
yeah,
okay, this is
yeah.
good for both of us. It's like a mind map, It's like how does my work in reducing harm, what does it reach? Because it reaches many different systems.
Right.
And people often think of it as maybe model like one plane of like here's how harm is reduced, but in my mind it's a multifaceted thing. What's interesting too about that is like, so the two posts, I'll say the four posts that have done the most good on LinkedIn that have
Mhm.
reached like tens of thousands of people in impressions. I don't have a very high thing with that, but those are way high. Everything else is like a couple hundred impressions, like really teeny,
Of
teeny, like
course.
barely
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
sees it. Those things reach really high. One was about sexual harassment investigations need to be trauma informed. That was
Mm,
huge. People shared that like 40 times, like they commented, like
it's
people
amazing.
came out of the woodwork. They were really they sent it to people a lot on LinkedIn. So that was a
Hmm.
big thing to me that told me like that they wanted other people to have that information. So there was that one. Then there was one about how if your operations depend on one person staying, you don't have a system, you have a single point of failure. And that is hands down like the most shared and viewed and liked post that I've ever made. Um, with people again sharing their own experiences. And again, that's also reducing harm, right? Because when people are
I
burned
was
out,
about to. Yeah. Okay.
right?
So like I'm glad you said that because like for one of my clients right now, like we um it's a merchandising company and the tagline is like let's make better merch. So everything that we do has to go back to what that means to like
Yes.
define that. And so I think like for you like as you kind of like adjust certain things within like your messaging
Mm-hmm.
um like it's it's going to be really to you it might feel annoying because to me it's like I'm like writing these like emails out and they're like better merch better merch like I have
Yes.
to say it over and over and over again, but that's the thing, like you kind of have to say things over and over and over again for people
Yes.
to be sticky to like what you're saying. Like how many times have you heard Bugs Bunny say like that's all folks or
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, no, they say with donations, that's huge in the nonprofit world because recent research shows that people need to hear something 18 times before they take action.
Mhm.
So, like, we have to say things over and over and over again. And so, I have been like, there are some things that I repeat saying stories about. Like, I'm talking about smoke air quality a lot, and I know it sounds like I'm harping on it, but it's because like that is a physical harm reduction in the
Yeah,
workplace
yeah.
thing that a lot of people haven't thought about, and that is a pressing and emerging issue. Um, and so things like that, like, yeah, reharping on it. And the other post that did really well was a post about behind every "that's not my job," there's a "do more than we hired you for." And to
Hmm.
me, that post was so popular. The other posts were popular with senior people, and this post was popular with entry level people. And I think, again, it resonated with the harm that they've experienced of having things piled on them and no pay adjustments, no expectation adjustments, no title bump, nothing.
No
Like they just keep
documentation.
no documentation. They just keep
Yeah.
getting stuff piled on them. And so to me, that's like an absolute like harm in the workplace thing. And so it's kind of cool that the three posts that have done the best are ones that all relate to that. So
Yeah, no, I'm always surprised like what gets like 10,000 views for me. Like, well, I mean, I'm sure you see. Sometimes I shit post, and sometimes
yeah,
sometimes
I love it.
sometimes I shit talk, and which is I think for where at least where I live in Utah, there's a culture here that absolutely deserves it, and I don't mind doing it sometimes. But like how when I put like the professional, because I'm me. We're each other. Like we're only
Right.
like we're all we have.
Yeah.
Like we can't
Yeah.
hide behind an org.
No.
But it's like okay, like what does it like? Just making when it's time for me to really put like my brand hat on, like for what I do, because like for what I do, it's the idea of reclaiming your narrative. It's okay. What does that mean in branding? What does that
Mhm.
mean for like
Mhm.
a someone who's on their own? And
Yeah.
so whenever I do my more like soapboxy type of stuff, like, okay, how do I frame that? And so I think like for you, like as you're like writing out like your posts and things like that, it's okay, like reducing harm, reducing harm, reducing harm, or like system, like especially when it comes like to systems, like I don't know if like if it's a bigger statement than just the two words reducing harm or whatever else, but like for yourself, like you might have to like decide like what that means, you know. And also the
Yeah.
thing, and another thing you have to think about too, like something you mentioned like in your DM, it's like okay, well, like what's the offer?
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like what, like how do people like work with me? So like so before we run out of time, so how does that work right now for you? If someone hits you up, like what's the process?
The process is a discovery call, like definitely is the first step. And it's basically people telling me what their problems are.
Yeah.
And then me saying back, like, okay, here's what I think your solutions might look like. Here's what I can help with. Do you want my help with that?
Yeah.
So it's very like free form. It is not off the shelf.
Hmm.
It's really very individualized. That is
Right.
good and bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Talk through that. Like what's okay, talk through the good and bad, because I have an idea, but I want to hear you
Yeah. So, well,
talk about
it's
it more.
good because on the one hand, like when they tell me their problems, I get all this context, which is great because then I can really understand like, oh, okay, here's what I actually suggest in my role as a consultant with my experience. And also here's where I feel like I can really make an impact in your problems is an X, Y, and Z. Like I know that going in.
Right.
And then I also know going in, like, that they're not going to want me for 50 million other things because they tell me these are the problems. And then I say, here's where I can help. And it's some subset of what their total problems are.
Hmm.
Um, if I had an off the shelf thing, like I know I've talked to some people who do grants consulting and they just have these packages. They're like, for a 3-month package, I'll apply for as many grants as I can. This is how many meetings you get. This is the stuff that you'll get from it, and it's $10,000 or whatever, like
Right.
there's the package. It's nice because people feel like they're shopping. They
Hmm.
look through these things and they're like, "Oh, what does a person offer? Oh." I know that when
Yeah.
I go to a website and I see like talk to a sales rep, I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." Like, no, no,
Barf.
no, no, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know how many people there are out there like that who are like, "Oh, I just want to see what she offers," like as like little things on a shelf versus the people who are like, I have a unique situation and I want someone to bring unique expertise and perspective.
Yeah. I think like from what I know about nonprofits, because I've done like a little bit of freelance work, just like I don't know, more grunt content work. There's
Hmm.
always like exceptions of why certain like different from different states, like whatever
Yes.
laws and things like that. So it makes me wonder if there's only one thing that you can pull off a shelf that essentially does the same thing of what you're doing is
I like that idea.
maybe like an audit, have
Yes.
them pay you
Yes.
for your time on that. That's the only thing that you can bring off the shelf because like you part of the messaging too, it's like every nonprofit is different. Like some have different systems, some don't. My my expertise is coming in auditing what you have and seeing where we can fortify whatever in your
Yeah.
compliance or in your grants,
Yep.
XYZ. And then if that means you bring in a grant writer, um you can make that a part of their budget when it comes down to it, when they actually do want to work with you.
Yep. And
So yeah.
yeah, I like that. And for a while, my focus was really on training, and I do still want to offer that because trainings are something that a lot of nonprofits, when they do get grants, they have money for that because training is often a line item in the budget.
Hmm.
And many places, specifically trauma informed care trainings and motivational interviewing trainings, are like very specific to the grant. They're like best practices, they're evidence based practices. So, like, it's really easy to get those things paid for, right? It's much harder to get other stuff paid for. It's easy to get that stuff paid for. So I had thought about offering like something like that. Like, here's a training package for up to X amount of employees. Choose one of these things, and you can have an off the shelf stuff, or you can contact me about more detailed ones or things. But I like the idea of like a system audit, like a specific
Yeah.
system audit, like an HR system audit or a financial system audit. And they can like choose that and then see what else.
Yeah, because I think you would still probably have to have like a small, like 15-30 minute conversation of what would
Yeah.
make sense. But as
Yes.
far as like actually getting in the weeds and being like, hey, I see this, I see that, I can help you fix that for X amount of
Yes.
dollars.
Mhm.
And like on your website, you can mention all the stuff, all the things that like you're good at, like have like maybe have like a small capability page where like each section is like maybe like your top three things that like you're good at. And
Yep.
maybe there's like a little message being like, you don't see something, chances are I can help. Just let's just talk and figure it out, you know?
Yep.
Because I don't want to confuse people. Like all of a sudden you throw like, I know for myself, all the things that I'm capable of, it's like 8 to 10 different things.
Right?
Like,
It's
and I,
like a very different thing.
it's like, it's, when you first start, like, oh wait, I offer so much, I'm surely valuable, but then you just like
Yeah.
confuse
You confuse
people. Like,
people. It's so true. So
I would
true.
rather like pull something out of my back pocket and be like, oh, did you know I can do this as well? Oh, really? You know, then you're solving all sorts of problems and making more money.
Then you underpromise
Hopefully.
and overdeliver, right? That's important.
There you
As
go.
opposed to when you tell people everything you do, there's nothing to surprise them later about. So you're kind of,
Yeah.
in a sense, overpromising, like, these are all my things. And so, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. No, I'm currently talking to a brand right now, like figuring out if we're gonna work together. But like there's like, well, what about this? Like there's always the what about question.
Yes.
Like what about? I would rather just get someone through the door on like what you're saying, like the values
Yes.
idea first. So if someone for myself, if someone's more interested in like having like a bigger story around their brand or service or whatever else, and like they see like narrative first,
Yes.
like come on in,
Yes.
let's talk more, because at that point I'm not talking to people who are like data driven. Like, yeah, I can get you data in my back pocket, but like I don't,
Yeah.
it's like grant writing
Yes.
to you.
Right?
It's
I hear
like,
that. You're like, I can like do that, but also like there's all these
yeah,
other things. Yeah. No, I
yeah,
agree.
like, so I don't know, like that's kind of like what I'm seeing, like for you. And Sherm is like what, in a couple months.
Yeah, Sherm is in, actually it's next month. And then I'm also speaking at the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits fundraising conference in
Mhm.
August, and that's all about event planning, community-based fundraising beyond the gala. So very different than everything we just talked about, but that's okay. It's
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that I have experience in.
Yeah. And I think maybe like to specifically prepare for Sherm, like
Yeah,
with that idea of being, I'm this person who reduces harm in the workplace through, through, I had it here. Where did it go? I wrote it out. Yeah, through
th-
your HR systems. I can send
HR
it to you
systems.
too.
Yeah,
Here,
yeah. Thank you. I'm
I'm
like
gonna send it to you
scribbling
right now.
down.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so like sometimes the notes app is my friend. Okay, I just DM'd it to you.
Thank you.
Like, and if you have that audit being like the thing, you know what that website is doing for
Yes,
you. Like,
yes,
you know the goal for that. And so like at the end of your talk, be like, by the way, this is what I do. I give audits, um, in and build systems for HR nonprofits or HR in nonprofits. Like, get a hold of me. Like, throw a QR code up there
yeah,
to like
yeah,
get a hold of you or whatever on your deck. But yeah,
yeah.
no,
That's a
like,
great idea.
yeah, I think just simplifying all the words, and also a good thing about like changing up like a little bit because like I'm getting really nitpicky here.
Good.
But so on a mission two, that's 4 words. That's
It
taking up
is.
space already.
It
Reducing
is
harm in the workplace, that's 5. And people are
less.
able to
Yeah,
see so much more, at least in that context of like
it's
LinkedIn, like
true.
what it looks like under a post. So there you
Yeah,
go. If nothing else, you
I
got
love
that.
it. Thank you so much for all the
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
pointers. It really helps to talk with someone sometimes, and I think that that's what like you. I can imagine that's what you bring to the table so much is that back and forth so that people can ideate as they talk about things and as you ask them about things. It's so much easier than just sitting alone in your head being like, what do I do? How do I position myself? Like, what's my narrative? Like,
Yeah.
alone, you don't really have the chance to do that.
Oh, and it's even hard for me too. Like, I mean, everyone sucks when they're alone sometimes. Like, it doesn't matter.
So
Like,
true.
it doesn't
So
matter who
true.
you are, what you've done,
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
like if you have a PhD. No, like you're still there's still going to be things that you miss in your peripheral vision, or like
Yes.
we can't see 360 until you have someone else to, you know, tell you. And I don't. And working with a team, like a for-profit team, is fun, but like because there is a lot of that ideating, but when there's more than 3 people in a room, like that's when it becomes a slog.
It's yes,
Depending on
so
the
true.
size of the company.
So true.
But yeah, no, this I love doing this. I love chatting, and I'm you show me your website when you're done.
Yes, I
Or
will when
even,
I'm done because
yeah,
I want to have
yeah,
it be done by the time I go to Sherm's.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you should probably
Yes.
have that done, and if you need help, let me
Yes.
know. But
Yes. No,
uh
I feel like I've got a clear thing now. What was
right,
holding me up is not
yeah.
the physically doing it. Like that's actually going to be easy because it's not going to be a fancy website. It's just going to be basic and
No,
straightforward.
yeah.
Knowing what to put on it, I was like, so.
Yeah, like you can do a lot like in 4 or 5 sections,
Oh yeah.
and what this one guy, like what I was saying before, like kind of like that storytelling guy that kind of like went too long. Do you know on websites where, and I didn't notice this until like later, but like, on websites when you scroll down, like on the top, have the sections. So it's like an infinite scroll website, but once you get to like a certain part, like it highlights a different section on top, right? But
Ah,
I didn't
okay.
but I didn't notice that, so I just thought the website was going on and on, because it didn't help that each section had like 120 words of text, which is like a
Yes.
UX nightmare.
Yes.
But like, as long as you don't do that, as long
Yeah.
as like you keep
No.
it nice and tight, each section maybe
Yes.
40 words tops,
Yep. Yep.
60 if you really want to push it, like especially like on
Yeah.
an about me section. But like,
Yes.
um but yeah, you could do some damage. I believe in you.
Thank you. Yes. Well, and keeping it simple like not having it be like this crazy complicated website helps me because then it forces me to focus on the text and what's in it because that's the most important thing. There are not pictures, there are not these other fancy things because it's just what is on there.
Yeah. And definitely have like I don't know if you have any like headshots or anything like that. Like maybe have like a couple on there cuz like mine is
Yeah.
like at the bottom of the page. um but as long as you have something, like
Yes. Yes.
you're good to go. So um
Sweet.
anyways, it was great meeting you and like in the flesh at
Yes.
least and
Yes, at
chatting.
least virtually in the flesh. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. If I ever find myself in the Pacific Northwest again, I'll be sure to
Definitely.
get some
Hit me up.
hang
I
out
can
or
tell you.
recommendations or whatever else.
Yes, exactly.
Hear great things about about Bellingham. I've got a friend
Oh,
up there too,
love it
so
up here. It's amazing.
someday. All right, well, I'll let you go now, and yeah, thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.